After their first two games, the Greek Freaks are winless on the season and will not make the playoffs. However, they have one final game left before they head into the offseason, and it's against a fierce rival as they'll take on the Mercs for the first time in program history. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mihir Sinhasan, and welcome back to the studio for another pregame show for the Greek Freaks. As I mentioned before, it was another close loss for the Freakies as they lost 38-35 to the Blue Jays. A close game on Halloween night as it ended out in heartbreak. And with that, we head to the highlights. It started off in the first quarter. Again, a back and forth game, very close, and it ended out 13-10 in favor of the Blue Jays. But then the second quarter, hey, it's Halloween night. We got the tricks, and you guys get the treats. Henry Smarto driving to the bucket. He goes to ground, but he puts up this acrobatic shot just like Baby Jokic, as he should. But the Blue Jays answered right before halftime with a buzzer beater from the right corner. It was 18-18 as both teams headed to the bench for the next 16 minutes. And right after that break, the Blue Jays took a big run, eventually getting up 28-19, a 10-1 run where the Greek Freaks did not muster a single bucket. They ended out the third quarter down 28-22. And at the beginning of the fourth quarter, they got some voodoo magic on that Halloween night. The deficit was cut down to 3 points, but the Blue Jays took it back and were only up by 9 points with 2:09 left to go in the fourth quarter. But with 37.5 seconds left, Tom Penn at the free throw line puts the first free throw up and puts the second free throw up to make it 38-35. And a few missed free throws from the Blue Jays and one turnover later, they had one final chance. The Greek Freaks were able to take the inbound pass as Tom Penn was trying to find Jack. Jack laid it up for three, and it ringed off the rim, no good, as they fell 38-35 to the Blue Jays and will once again miss the playoffs after making it last year 1-1. Let's take a look at the stats for that game. Of course, Henry Smarto continues what is an excellent season, not just excellent, a historical season so far, with 12 points and 10 rebounds on Halloween night, his second double-double of the season, and the second double-double in Greek Freaks history. He also went 4 for 9 from the free throw line, and overall, the Greek Freaks had 27 rebounds. But then let's take a look at the other side. Only 3 assists on the day, and they went 26% from the field, which is down from 31%, which occurred the week before. They also had a decrease from behind the arc as well. In Game 1, they had 25%. They were down to 17% last week. Right behind Henry Smarto in the points total was Tom Penn with 11 points, which included going 3 for 6 from the three-point line and included free throws late in the fourth quarter, as I mentioned before. And now a little bit elsewhere. The other 2 players with some points. Kavish Siddhartha with 3 points. Again, another great counterpart, especially in the front court with Henry Smarto. And Abe Mogelson, who has had quite the struggle this year, 3 points. That is the lowest career total for Abe in a Greek Freaks game. That goes back all the way to season 1, averaging 6.5 points per game, and he had 18 points per game last season. Let's take a look at the injury report now. Now, technically speaking, everybody is healthy, but there are a few commitments here and there that will cause some strangling, as Abe Mogelson and Jacob Mitkoff will both be a late arrival, Abe for work and Jacob for lab. Luke Foster and Finn Hogan will be listed as questionable, as Luke will have work, and Finn may be with the state press. So now is a time to introduce the Mercs, the Greek Freaks' opponent, on Tuesday. Again, as I mentioned before, the Mercs, a very similar team to the Greek Freaks, and what many sources may consider a fierce rival, as they're made up of current class of 2026 members, much like the Greek Freaks. And there are a lot of key players in that team that are similar to this team that you have seen throughout the season. For example, Max William in the guard spot, again, a great lanky player that can get shots up, much like Jack McCarthy. Morgan Fell, the big man, very similar to Finn Hogan, again, a lanky guy, but definitely tall as well, could get some shots up and in. Now let's take a look down the lineup. Ethan Harrell, the captain of that team, very similar to Henry Smarto. And the captain, you want to see a player that can show out in big moments. Both Ethan and Henry have done that for their respective teams this year. And then even at the head coach spot too, Andy Romick, similar to our very own Andrew Dirst. When you look at the Mercs, also known as the Mercurettes, as they were known the past 2 seasons, they were also out in the first round of the playoffs last year, very similar to the Greek Freaks. In fact, they actually took the same bus ride home from Tempe to Phoenix after their respective losses. In terms of the Mercs, they're ninth in points per game overall with 42, and 11 in points against overall with 44. But with that being said, they have only played one game on the season, which was a couple weeks ago, a 44-42 loss to the Overthinking Hoopers. And they had 6 of their players playing in that game: Nicholas Battiata, Morgan Fell, Max Williams, Jace Grenke, Jackson Shaw, and Ethan Harold. No Tyler Abrams and no Ernie Jimenez in the game. This will be a doubleheader for the Mercs as they play the Greek Freaks at 6, and then they will play Lob City 2, See You in Court at 8. And for the Mercs, too, they need wins in both of those 2 games to advance to the playoffs, or at the very least, a win and a draw. And speaking of this great matchup, we send it down to Mihir Sinhasan, who's outside the Sun Devil Fitness Complex with head coach Andrew Dirst for what should be an interesting matchup. Take it away, Mihir. Thanks, Mihir, and welcome to another edition of Coach's Corner, where I'm here with Andrew Dirst, the head coach of the Greek Freaks. Coach, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, again, another close loss last week, losing 38-35. What was going on in the fourth quarter? Because it seemed like you guys were down, and then you guys were coming back, and then it just didn't seem like it was going to pan out into a comeback.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I do want to apologize for my voice. I am just sick of losing. But yeah, we had a tough fourth quarter again. We had opportunities. We also had some kind of mystery points that got added on by, looks like some shady scorekeeping. Kind of, we got some points added. But at the end of the day, we had a shortened rotation. We had a lot of good effort out there, but we just didn't make the shots when we needed to. Obviously, there's plays we could have made differently, and there's shots I wish we made, but we played a good game. It just didn't fall our way, but I'm excited to see what we can do this week.
Absolutely, and you got an improved front court. Finn Hogan's back this week, Jason Wright, both of them back from injury. What do they bring to this front court? Especially, we talk about Henry Smarto, who just once again had a double-double, second double-double of the season. But now you bring in these new players, or more than new, these other supporting players in. Talk about that front court and what it means to this team.
I mean, most of all, it means rebounds and it means effort. Finn Hogan, Jason Wright, if we get them back, and I'm really hoping we do, they're just going to be great additions. There are more bodies and rotations. Everyone's fresher, but both of those guys bring a ton of effort and a ton of help on the boards, which is where we've struggled historically, getting rebounds. We've done better recently, but I'm just really excited to get both of those guys back. Both really high effort, fun players that are going to give everything they have to this team, and just more guys I'm excited to have back.
And one guy I have to mention, Tom Penn. Of course, he comes in, he sets a tone within this team that wasn't seen in the prior seasons. And again, he showed it. Again, didn't have the best performance in Game 1, Game 2 with 11 points overall. How has he changed this team overall, and how does he help you out, especially being the head coach?
He's played a lot of basketball, and we have a lot of guys that have played. We have a lot of guys that haven't played as much organized basketball. He's played a lot. He brings kind of a relentlessness to this team. I mean, he's the guy that suggested the zone. And, I was a little skeptical at first, I'll be honest, because I didn't know if our guys could run it. But they can, and they did, and they have really well. And that was, his suggestion. He plays with a lot of ferocity on defense, and he's another guy that can really ball handle for us on offense. I'd like to see him, get some cleaner looks from three, and maybe we need to distribute around and who takes the ball, because we have a lot of guys that can do it now with a more replenished roster. I'd like to see Kavish do it, Abe do it, stuff like that. But yeah, he brings a lot of firepower on offense. Once he gets going, which I don't even think we've seen how much he really can do. Once he gets going from three, I think he's so hard to stop.
Absolutely. Went 3 for 6 last week. Could get better as this one goes on. Speaking of which, an interesting matchup this week against the Mercs. Again, kind of a like-for-like team. Both of you guys went to the playoffs, lost in the first round, representing downtown Phoenix. Talk about kind of the similarities between this team, because it's interesting on how you can look at it. You can look at it from a rivalry standpoint, but you can also look at it from a partnership standpoint. Again, a lot of similarities, both with players and even with you and Andy Romike, head coach of the Mercs. Talk about that kind of connection.
Yeah, they're, again, like you said, a very similar team. A lot of sports journalists, it's a lot of what we're made up as. And, it feels good to, have another kind of team of guys we know and be able to go out and play against them, because I don't think we've really played against a team of a lot of guys we know yet, even last season. I don't think it was Dream Team, a couple, but nothing that serious yet. So, I think you got to look at it both as a camaraderie and a rivalry. they're good guys, and we have to have a great game. But that means we want to go out there and beat them even more. We almost played an exhibition match. I don't know if you remember, against them after the playoffs last year. Weren't able to get that going. That would have been a good inaugural matchup. We are excited. The guys are excited to go out there and show what they have, and hopefully get the first win of this season. They're a good team, but we have some ideas, some plays, and we're gonna bring it all.
Overall, the Greek Freaks in the final game of the regular season, 1 win and 1 draw, looking to remain unbeaten in that category as they take on the Mercs. Joined by head coach Andrew Dirst, I'm Mihir Sinhasan, and let's send it back to the studio. Great thoughts from head coach Andrew Dirst. And so the time has come. The Greek Freaks heading out onto the court at the Sun Devil Fitness Complex in downtown Phoenix, ready for their final game of this season 3 here in the regular season. For the call, Mihir Sinhasan.